My work is really simple. I wanna learn as much as I can from the masters. And you can't learn from a master if you're gonna do weird things with him and his work. I mean, this playwright is unlike any other that the world has ever seen before. And I know he's given all the credit for it, but it was him and the company he was working with. They must have been an amazing group of people, uh, both men and women. I mean, the women may not, were the wives of the actors and whatnot and had to put up with a lot of things, but they made a contribution to these plays. The reason I think why the plays are so deep and magnificent and complex is because they had a hand in it. Their efforts, he incorporated into the writing of the plays. And we're still trying to fathom these plays out, especially Hamlet. And Lear is the other one. And I must say that of all the plays I've done in my life, only two gave me the feeling that I was doing something that was spiritually important for the community. And that was Hamlet, and the other play was Sophocles' Oedipus Tyrannus. Those two plays, an actor cannot do and say that it's just a product. It's just something that going to perform for the audience. No, there was something when you're doing these plays, there's something, the responsibility is much deeper than just being an actor, a commercial piece. I mean, at the end of Oedipus, for the chorus to say, call no man happy until he's dead and free from suffering, how do you applaud that? How do you treat that like just a piece of Broadway commodity? It's impossible. So that and Hamlet have got to be the two plays that say to an actor, you're dealing with something that goes beyond mere commodity, beyond it. And you better be ready to handle it if you're going to do it properly, if you're going to do it well, you know, and in a way that honors those who created it.
Beautiful.
Simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, very simple.
It's simple. Absolutely. Well, with on that simple note,
Yeah.
I'll let you guys get to work and have a great session. I'll check in at the end.
Okay.
Okay, so here we are with the ghost again. The only thing that I wanted to make sure, the reason I sent that email was because I still think that Polonius, Laertes, and Ophelia scene is essential, and sometimes it's just glossed over. But there's a lot of information in that scene that's going to affect the tragedy of this play and the tragic outcome for all of those three people. And so I keep going back to it and finding more and more. And when we get to the end of this act, and we do a reading of everything, I'm hoping that we can see how it connects. Randy and I were talking about this the other night. Act One plants seeds. And that's why you have to be really careful with Act One of this play, to see what are the seeds that are being planted. Obviously, we've learned that first scene plants a lot of seeds about who is this ghost and why are we bringing him to Hamlet and what can we anticipate once Hamlet meets that ghost. We get to meet the main characters, Claudius, Gertrude, Polonius, Laertes, Ophelia, Horatio, all of them. And so that's why it's painstaking work right now. It's sifting for gold in this early scene. But you need to do that because the payoff is going to be as we move ahead. And so it's not surprising to me that I keep finding little, when Nathan says that I'll find something to share, it's not so much me sharing it, it's there. It's in that text. I have the great privilege of being retired now and having no other obligation other than feeding Randy, but other obligation than taking, living with this play and going over even the assumptions that I made about it and going back to things that have been said about it and reevaluating my own conclusions. And we even had a conversation with Liz. Yes, the minute you engage in conversations with people who've done the play or love the play, all sorts of new ideas come up. And we're at one disadvantage. The disadvantage that we are at, obviously, is that we can't get up on our feet and do what's physical to the telling of this story and examine reaction, not just what one character says to another character, but what is the silent sometime reaction that causes the character to continue speaking. I often feel that we cut Shakespearean plays a lot of times because a director sits or dramaturg sits alone with the text and then says, well, that's just too long a speech, and it seems to repeat itself. So let me just take out what's repetitive, and not realizing it may be saying something about the character, or it may be saying that the point that the characters needs to get across is not happening. It's not connecting with the person that he or she wants to get it across to. So how does the silent character react physically to that moment? I'm going to show you an example, even with this ghost scene coming up, that it's uncanny to see the kinds of reactions that take place when Hamlet sees the ghost for the first time. And I've gone through a list of very famous actors, and all of them react differently, but all of them take the time to take in what that moment is. And I had asked Randy, how did we do? I couldn't even remember how we did. And Randy said, I think we went through it quickly. I think I jumped right to speaking to him. So it was very interesting to explore those moments in there where Hamlet has no lines, but he indeed must live out what is it like to see this spirit who looks like his father, who is in armor, all of the things that we've discussed about the ghost, and Hamlet gets to meet him for the first time. So we'll talk about that in a minute. I think that what we should do first is read this first scene. And what I'd like you to do, if you would, is, Lee, would you take Hamlet for this? Oh, is he on or he's gone? Oh, there he is. Would you take Hamlet? And Jim, would you take Marcellus? And Liz, would you take Horatio? And we'll just read through it and then come back and point out some stuff, okay? And whenever you're ready.
The air bites shrewdly. Is it very cold? Is that where we're beginning? Sorry, we might have a problem. I cannot hear.
No, my sound was off because there was noise going on outside my house.
Yeah, Lee, that's where we're starting.
Okay, thank you.
And going all the way through to the Hamlet following the ghost off.
Right.
Got you. Thank you.
So sorry.
No problem.
Okay.
The air bites shrewdly. Is it very cold?
It is a nipping and an eager air.
What hour now?
I think it lacks of 12.
No, it is struck.
Indeed, I heard it not. Then it draws near the season wherein the spirit held his wont to walk. What does this mean, my lord?
The king doth wake tonight and takes his rouse, keeps wassels and the swaggering upspring reels, and as he drains his draughts of Rhenish down, the kettle drum and trumpet thus bray out the triumph of his pledge.
Is it a custom?
Aye, marry, is't. And to my mind, though I am native here and to the manor born, It is a custom more honored in the breach than the observance.
Look, my lord, it comes.
Angels and ministers of grace, defend us. Be thou a spirit of health or goblin damned. Bring with the airs from heaven or blasts from hell. Be thy intense, wicked, or charitable, thou comest in such a questionable shape that I will speak to thee. I'll call thee Hamlet, king, father, royal Dane. Oh, answer me. Let me not burst in ignorance, but tell why thy canonized bones, hearsed in death, have burst their cerements, why the sepulchre wherein we saw thee quietly inurned hath oped his ponderous and marble jaws to cast thee up again. What may this mean, that thou, dead corse, again in complete steel revisits thus the glimpses of the moon, making night hideous, and we fools of nature so horridly to shake our disposition with thoughts beyond the reaches of our souls? Say, why is this? Wherefore? What should we do?
It beckons you to go away with it, as if some importment did desire to you alone.
Look with what courteous action it waves you to a more removed ground, but do not go with it.
No, by no means.
Will not speak. Then will I follow it?
Do not, my lord.
Why? What should be the fear? I do not set my life at a pin's fee. And for my soul, what can it do to that, being a thing immortal as itself? It waves me forth again. I'll follow it.
What if it tempt you toward the flood, my lord, or to the dreadful sonnet of the cliff that beetles o'er his house into the sea, base into the sea, and there assumes some other horrible form which might deprive you of your sovereignty, of reason, and draw you into madness? Think of it.
It wafts me still. Go on. I'll follow thee.
You shall not go, my lord.
Hold off your hand.
Be ruled. You shall not go.
My fate cries out and makes each petty artery in this body as hardy as the Nemean lion's nerve. Still am I called. Unhand me, gentlemen. By heaven, I'll make a ghost of him that lets me. I say away. Go on. I'll follow thee.
He waxes desperate with imagination.
Let's follow. 'Tis not fit thus to obey him.
Home after, to what issue will this come?
Something is rotten in the state of Denmark.
Heaven will direct it.
Nay, let's follow him.
Okay. Great, thank you. So let's start to take a look at it. Something I do want to put before all of you, because as I do my exploration and you do your exploration, you'll find there are many fascinating facets to this play, from the source material, from how an Elizabethan would view the play. And what we need to figure out is how to take that information, which I think is very, very helpful, but how to infuse what we're doing and make whatever information we glean from those materials appropriate and meaningful and thrilling to any audience. Otherwise, it's just an interesting little fact, and oh gosh, Annie, you know so much, and who cares? But what I am finding, and I'm saying this as a prelude, because what I'm finding is that I have struggled with that, and I think some of the things that I'm going to talk about today, you will find they will have an impact on how this scene develops and moves forward. So the first question that I would ask, and let's say we're in rehearsal, and look at the dialogue between the three men. And Hamlet first says that it's the air bites shrewdly, and Horatio backs him up. It is a nipping and an eager air. One of the things to just hold on to for a moment is something that happened whenever a ghost or a spirit would appear. It was believed that the air became very cold. And so these men know they're there to meet this is not Act 1, Scene 1, where Francisco has no idea and we don't know if the ghost is going to come back or not. We are there because we have absolute faith that this ghost will appear. So I think there's a possibility for everyone to have a sense of, is that it? The air it's biting sharply. Is there some change in the air? Maybe does that mean something? And Horatio backs that up. It's a nipping and an eager air. So that you examine the air rather than it just being a check of the climate or, the temperature. It has connection right away to something that might be in the air that's telling us perhaps the ghost is near. Then that provokes Hamlet's next question is, what hour now? Why? Because we know the ghost appears between 12 and 1, at least to the men who saw it. If you remember Bernardo's speech about when the sky looked a particular way, the bell then beating 1, and boom, that ghost was on. You ask, what hour now? So we know that the 12 has happened. We don't know if the 1 has happened. But again, the hour goes back to, not a time check, but the ghost. Everything, Morris Carnofsky used to say, the object saveth thee from death. And the object in this scene is the ghost. So whenever you have something that can tie into what this is about, you guys have set it up for us, the actors have set it up for us, that we are going to, along with Hamlet, encounter a ghost. There's no other expectation that the audience has. And so we're ready for it. So what we have dramatically is the sense of the air having changed. Is it the right time? Marcellus is at odds with it. Marcellus says that it has struck. Horatio says, I didn't hear it. So even there's a sense of checking each other out to see. When I was thinking of just directing it, and I thought, I wonder if they all enter together. Or is it that Marcellus comes in first? Because the way we had it in that first scene, if you remember, that we had Bernardo and then Marcellus and Horatio joined him. I wondered if there was a possibility that Marcellus enters first and then Hamlet and Horatio come in, and that is somehow reflects on Marcellus knowing something that the other guys don't know yet. Again, would have to be played with to see if it has any legs at all. But again, that kind of thing, we want to start to look at how, if we had it on our feet, how can we make this make sense that one man has heard it and the others haven't. That's the first moment. Then we hit when Horatio says, then it's drawing near the time and our expectations are high. What happens? A cannon blast goes off. Scares the hell out of everybody in the audience. If it's done, timed right, everybody in the audience should not know what the hell is that. And obviously Horatio questions it, but we've gotten the promise earlier from Claudius that when he drinks in celebration, it's going to be followed by trumpets and cannon, and that's why Hamlet knows about it, because he heard Claudius say that was going to happen. And then he goes on to talk about it being part of the custom of the Danes. I call your attention now to, once again, Horatio doesn't know the custom. Is Horatio Danish? He doesn't know the custom. Just a question that I put forth for everyone to just weigh out, because we're going to see this throughout with Horatio. Hamlet's going to have to fill him in on stuff that if he was around, he would know about. So that seed is planted, okay? Anybody have anything to add to it that I may have overlooked? Yeah, go ahead, Lee.
Just when you said that, I had never considered that, and this is all wonderful. Is it a custom that he asks that? And at the end, with the cup and Hamlet, Horatio says, I am more an antique Roman than a. So that supports, I think, what you just said.
Yes. And it was very common, by the way, for a leader of a foreign land to pick up pages and knights along the way from other countries. You weren't just, you didn't have to be Danish to be part of someone who would follow the king. Again, I don't think this is one of those moments where it's not too much is going to be made of it. It's just very curious to me, though, that the line you're pointing out, the fact that he doesn't know Laertes, Camilla has to say, well, that's Laertes. He's a noble youth. He has to tell him who Laertes is. It's kind of an interesting thing. And Claudius does not reach out to Horatio as a schoolmate. I would think if you would want the best information to have an eye on Hamlet, you'd go directly to Horatio. He doesn't. He goes to two former schoolmates, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. So again, food for thought. The folio cuts out the dram of eel speech. And it's a lovely, wonderful speech, but I can almost understand why. Because the action, we're getting right to the action. The promise has been made that we're going to see a ghost, and it is going to happen before we, go into any great detail of man and drinking and whatever else follows that particular moment with Claudius. I think for me, it's a wonderful moment of adding the tension that's already developing in the scene, and then that cannon goes off and scares Horatio, because Horatio doesn't know about it. And then, of course, who comes in? Look, my lord, it comes. All right. And that's what we've been in, that long spelling on look. And look at the shortness of that line. Look, my lord, it comes. We have 5, I believe, beats in there to do something with. And that's why I think all of these actors have come up with a reaction for Hamlet that would fill that time. I want to share some of them with you. I think one of the most interesting ones, and maybe you guys know this story, is David Garrick had his wig maker make him a wig that he was able to have the hair stand up on when he pressed the button. So that was his response to it. Betterton turned pale with amazement and horror. An actor by the name of Brockman crossed himself, threw himself down, and then stood helpless, and his knees were shaking. Another act, Goethe's Hamlet, went back to the audience because he moved back. His back was to the audience, and then he fell, and he couldn't convey Hamlet's terror, so he didn't want the audience to see his face. So he turned his back to the audience because he felt it was too difficult for him to portray that. Forbes Robertson, a man frozen with awe and terror, he took a long, drawn intake of breath. Lawrence Barrett, he collapsed, uttering great oh, as he struggled back to his knees. Daniel Day-Lewis went into an epileptic fit.
Wow.
Olivier nearly fainted. Irving let his cape fall off his shoulders and seemed to be struck down. and lost his hat. And then later on, Horatio picks up the cape, and as they exit, he throws it around Hamlet, and it makes for a very loving exit.
Mm.
That's just a smattering of the responses that different actors have given. But I thought to myself, I would love us to play with what that possibility is. And here's where I celebrate actors, because I can read that to you, and some of you will take it and think, oh, hell, I'd like to try that. Some will think it's ridiculous. But the moment of truth on stage must come from the actor. And so everything that is built up in you as your Hamlet will inform your response to the ghost in that moment. And you have your work cut out for you, because he's your father, he's your king, he's you've had the speech about your mother rejecting him, he's walking the night, he's in armor. All of that has to somehow be filtered through your imagination to have a response. Now, I'm not suggesting that to be some big glorious moment packed with all of it, but I think whoever's playing Hamlet has an opportunity here to let us know what his response is. It's got to be, again,
Yeah.
think of yourself. Think of yourself, how what it would be like. What it would be like to have such an encounter. The next thing I want to bring up is angels and minister of grace defend us. Do you remember in the first scene when the mention of heaven sent the ghost away? We have to make a decision here, because Hamlet is saying angels and ministers of grace. If the ghost hears that, would he not shrink away again or stalk away again, because Hamlet is bringing in heaven, or the notion of heaven? So you have an opportunity here, I think, to almost whisper it. And you have to bring it, it's for all three men. So it's not just, it doesn't say me, he says us. But do you do it in such a way that you're far enough away from the ghost so it's not directed at the ghost? Do you do it quietly? Whatever it is, I think it's worth taking a look at, because it's followed by a colon. And and that colon is indicative of a movement. So if you're further away from the ghost, the colon may suggest that you move closer towards him when you start your speech. Another little, is this making sense to everybody?
Yeah.
With me, okay. Because now we're going to get into, we have to find where Horatio and Marcellus are fearful of Hamlet going off alone with this ghost. And it's not just a generalized, I'm afraid he's a ghost, don't be alone with him. There's some specific stuff I think that actors can play. And one of them is, he is not addressing this being correctly. He is not asking the questions that one, if you remember how Horatio questioned the ghost, these questions are different from Hamlet. And Hamlet actually acquiesces to calling him king, royal Dane, father. And he says, if you're from heaven or hell, I want to know. He's not addressing the ghost in the way that somebody who's trying to protect themselves from a seemingly evil spirit, because remember, good spirits don't, once you die and go to heaven, great, that's it. You don't come back. And the only way you would come back, according to ghost folklore and Catholicism, is if you receive from heaven permission, from God himself, to come and rectify something that you did wrong while you're suffering in purgatory, something you've done wrong. If you can rectify that, God would give you permission to come back. However, there were signs to know a ghost by. What did the ghost look like? If the ghost came back first part is easy. If the ghost came back as a pig or some kind of grotesque animal, snake, anything like that, you can bet it's evil. If the ghost comes back as a man, and remember, never before on the English stage has a ghost come back in anything other than shrouding sheets. A ghost has never come back in armor. However, if you're a benevolent spirit, chances are you would not come back with the clothing of war, of fighting, because you're there because you're going to do something holy and good. The other thing, and this will impact the next scene we do, how does the ghost sound? If he speaks quietly and unemotionally, there's a chance that he is not an evil spirit. If he speaks hysterically and angrily and forcefully, you better watch out. All right. Who does he choose to speak to? He chooses to speak to melancholic people. He chooses to speak to those people who have vendettas. He chooses to speak to those people who are extremely anxious. Now, we have witnessed Hamlet's state of being in the second scene. We have seen him be bitter towards Claudius, and to top all of the things that we've witnessed, we've heard him say he wished he could kill himself. He's exactly the kind of person that an evil spirit would tap on to steal their soul from them. He's weak. He's perfect for that. Okay. The other thing that you would look into is, where does the ghost meet you? Usually it's nighttime. If you met a ghost in the daytime, you'd be pretty safe, because of course, obviously they can't be around in the sun. That's why the cock crowing is fearful for the spirit. But they meet at night. They'll meet you at night. They look for a place that's deserted. They look to pull you off so they can deal with you privately. You start to see where some of the fear that Marcellus and Horatio have come from the ghost beckoning Hamlet to go away with it, because Horatio would have learned at Wittenberg that one never encounters a ghost alone. Might be why Bernardo in the very first scene is terrified, when he sees Francisco. At any rate, there are all of these measures that one has. The number one thing is to be skeptical. And Hamlet, and I think it's beautiful, I actually think it's just such a wonderful acting moment. Hamlet throws his skepticism away because standing in front of him is his father, is his king, is everything that he's just lost. And he's not going to risk losing him again without getting answers. So you see that Hamlet, he uses the word thou, and I won't go into thou and you, although you will find that characters interchange them often, but for a reason. But thou is respectful, and Hamlet's being respectful to this spirit. Horatio and Marcellus see this. It makes them fearful to see him. Now, if you're the actor playing it and you start to get emotional about what you're willing to do and how you're willing to deal with this spirit, you can start to see how Marcellus and Horatio realize maybe this was the wrong thing to bring him here, because his reaction is not cool and calm, and he never once says, "Are you a devil?" He never says. If a ghost says something benevolent, then you can feel some trust towards it. However, here's another little side to all of this. The devil is able to use wonderful holy language to convince you that they're from heaven. So you have to be skeptical of even that. But that's what the importance of this confrontation with the ghost is. It's not just Hamlet talking about the ghost. It really, we start to see how dangerous this is for Hamlet. He's doing what Horatio did when he said, "I'll cross it though it blast me." He is taking that, he's making that kind of a movement here and using language. And the worst of all is, what shall we do? You don't ask evil spirits for instructions on how to behave, but he does, which lets us know already when he does depart that he already is being sucked into this must be his father. It stops being a spirit for him. Even though he starts off accepting that, it will grow into something. I'll call you father if that's what I have to do. Oh, answer me. It's quite beautiful. I think it should be thrilling for Hamlet to act that. And then the ghost makes this incredible gesture of having his arm out and wafting Hamlet to him. And Horatio and Marcellus are alarmed. Hamlet's ready to go. He's ready to go. Marcellus and Horatio are alarmed. Don't do it. Watch him all you want, but do not go with him. Hamlet, remember in our second scene, when Hamlet says, he's no more like my father than I to Hercules. And Hamlet's been told that his mourning for his father is womanly, is weak. Our weak little Hamlet from scene 2, now as hardy as the Nemean lion. Now I will venture anything. All of a sudden, this Hamlet is filled with this ghost, and he's stronger and nothing can stop him. He will even, this Hamlet, who gave his love to those men when they departed him, he will pull his sword out and threaten them if they dare try to stop him. Thrilling, absolutely thrilling to be Hamlet, and terrifying for Horatio and Marcellus. What do they do? This is the prince that they chose to follow. You don't lay hands on the prince, but Marcellus doing it because he's fearful of what's going to happen. All right? Hamlet goes, and we're left with Horatio and Marcellus. Horatio does not follow. Horatio says, leave it to heaven. And Marcellus says, no. When I love this, because you brought this up last week, Lee, about Marcellus having been put through fire, because he's the one now who's, I think we're up to 4 times of him seeing it. We found out from him that he didn't know why they were keeping the watch. He's hooked into it being an evil spirit, because his speech about when Christmas comes, no spirit can come and do dastardly things. So he has that fear in him, an attitude towards this ghost. And he's had this kind of thrown on him from the first night he saw it. And so he is the one who says to Horatio, we have to follow it. Something's rotten in the state. And it's so perfect that he comes to that conclusion, because he, out of everybody, has to endure every night of seeing it in every event that has led up to it. And so Horatio says it's heaven will, and Marcellus says, no, let's follow it. There you go. That's the scene. Exciting, right? Where's Nick? Exciting. Can we do it again?
That is exciting.
Exciting.
I'd like to say this. When actors are asked to paraphrase a scene, I wish they could do it the way you just did. Or I should say we. Yeah.
Annie, can I ask? Excuse me, I don't have my voice is a little tired from all the smoke around here. Everything's on fire here.
Yeah.
So I may have gotten overly indoctrinated sometimes into I want to make what's on the folio right. Um, and so sometimes I look at and this is the first scene where I'm finding some of the most substantial differences where the punctuation or a word here or there is really different. And you know, and a lot of them there's an easy quarto swap, and most of us just make the quarto swap. But I was just thinking about the conversation that was just happening about how Marcellus and Horatio are receiving Hamlet giving into the ghost so quickly. It actually would make me want to maybe advocate for keeping the be thy events wicked or charitable, which is a intent is sort of, you know, if Hamlet's saying
Yes.
you're intense, I don't care what they are, but if he actually says, I don't care what happens, you
Mhm.
know, I don't know, it made me think maybe that was worth keeping the
Yeah.
folio.
Hmm.
Um, but
Yeah.
then there's a harder one at the end of the speech with the whole with thoughts beyond thee
Yeah.
Yes.
reaches. I mean, I don't, that one's a little harder, but I've been looking. There's a lot of them in this and the
Gandhi,
next
reaches
scene.
of the high souls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and
You
I
know,
But that
unless
think,
it's
could
a
be
musical
printers.
direction or something. You
yeah,
know.
no, I think that one of the things, this is Annie trying to make the folio work, because Annie loves the folio. But if you look at the as a long spelling, and the comma as a place to think of the word reaches, then it is doing exactly what it would do without the comma, but it's doing it dramatically. Do you see what I mean?
Hmm.
So beyond, do the line, say the line for me. I don't have my folio in front of me.
So horribly to shake our disposition with thoughts beyond the reaches of our souls.
Yeah, there you go. That's a way to do it. Again, I have to tell you, but in my old age, I've become a little more lenient
Hmm.
with some of the changes. But I will say that Randy and I, even in the early days, what we would do is kind of follow it to its end. And if it no longer made sense, then we'd make the switch. If there was no way we could possibly make it work, then we would make the switch. And it happens. I mean, there are typos. These things were hand set, you know, so one could say that it was a mistake. But again, all I could say is that I would look at it and look for the best sense possible. Now, I have found that in Romeo and Juliet, a lot of changes come from the quarto, and I would go back and look, and I thought, I don't know, the folio does a pretty nice job with certain choices that people have just totally thrown away because they think the quarto is better. So that, I guess that's the best answer that I could give you, is that I would search. I think you'll all find that, I think in the quarto it's the air by Shroudly, and in the folio it's shrewdly. Is there a change? Does anybody, I don't know if you have that in front of you. I was just reading about it lately. I've always gone with shrewdly because biting sharply makes sense to me. No,
Yeah, shroudly in the quarto. Yes.
yeah, yeah. And people would go with it because they felt that he was making a suggestion about being in a shroud and being buried. I don't know. I think shrewdly works perfectly fine.
I also have a in the quarto that they changed to the question to a statement. It is very cold.
Hmm.
Is the what? Say it again, Nick. The very end of it, I didn't hear.
That the quarto 2 has it is very cold instead of is it very cold.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes. Here's the thing.
What I love about that, though, is what you brought
Yeah.
up, you know, because then it does create that distinction
Hmm.
between meteorology and, you know,
Yes,
woo-woo. No,
yeah.
that's
It's
what,
playable.
yeah,
And
it's
that's the
very
thing about, you know, that's the thing about the quarto wasn't meant to be acted from. The folio is the acting version. I mean, all of those sides were gathered together by Hemming and Condell to put the folio together. So we know that these were in actors' hands. And so that punctuation in the folio is rhetorical. It's not grammatical. And that's why so many of these modern texts have taken that and they'll say, oh, Shakespeare's too great a writer to have a run-on. And so they get rid of the run-on sentence, but it's not about being a run-on. Look at me. How many words do I say as I'm talking to you? I defy any of you to punctuate it. You know, but we do that with these texts and we just grammatify them. But that's not what the folio is. If you're somebody who is looking for, I think this is one of the things that Randy and I have talked about over the years, is we want to get as close as we can to how that company that he was admiring did the plays. And that's the closest we could come, is by looking at that text, because we know that these were texts based on performance. You know, go
They're
ahead.
probably the closest thing to a score that we have as actors. You know, besides being a roadmap to this country we're supposed to explore. But it's the closest thing that we have to a score that musicians have.
I think it's so funny because I've had arguments with, not arguments, let's say warm discussions with Richard Knowles, who was instrumental with putting the modern variorums together. Another man that we met recently, I won't mention his name because he's going to join us, but at any rate, and they would all say to me, you know, this folio doesn't mean anything. And I remember, I don't know if any of you remember, Richard came to talk to us when we were doing one of the shows, and he said the most important thing is that actors rely on scholars to choose the text and don't rely on themselves to do it. And even my dear, dear, loving John Wyatt, when we first met, he told me that the texts belong to scholars, not to the act. Theater is not the first check on a text, that it's second or third. And I said to him, you're wrong, John, you're wrong. The nice thing is, of course, I'll remind all of you that John went on to co-direct many Shakespearean productions from the folio at APT. So listen, this stuff belongs to us. And we have to take charge of it, but we have to earn that. I'm afraid sometimes we don't earn that. But let's say that we do, because it has to be put in the hands of actors. That's what brings it to life. That's the truth on stage, you know? So to have a text that comes as close as it can come to actors can do nothing but help us. And you know what? Yes, it's going to ask for your imagination. It's going to, Lee and I will look at it excited. Both of us be off the wall with excitement. Oh my God, look at this. Oh my God. And they can be totally different takes on it. But what's important about it is that our imagination is bringing it to life. We're taking our clues from the text and allowing that to filter through our imagination. And that's what brings it to life on stage. Okay, you know all that. Okay, shall we read it again?
Annie.
Boy, I'm being Italian. Stella Adler would be so proud of me right now. She would always say, get more Jewish. Well, I'm getting Italian, so.
Annie, I have a quick thought before we read again, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
So something that just popped into my head as we were all talking about different things here. I wonder if Horatio knew that Hamlet was going to have this kind of reaction when he first told him that we've seen a ghost that looks like your father. They come here. And is that why he's then surprised that that's the reaction that Hamlet has? And he says, I'm not following him. Heaven can take over. But Marcellus sticks with him and says, you know, I'm part to blame for bringing him into this mess and not knowing that he would react this way. And I have to make sure he's okay.
The way I would answer that is, the short answer would be no, he doesn't know. I would say to you, he doesn't know, because if he did know, he probably would not encourage him meeting the ghost. The other thing I would say to you is that everything that happens on stage, for me, happens in the moment. So I think it's important that this is fresh, this is new. I don't think Hamlet knows how he's going to respond to the ghost. When he says, I wish I had been there in that first scene, I'll meet tonight. My father's spirit in arms. I'm going to talk to it. I don't think he understands that's why I'm pointing out what is his reaction
Right.
when he sees that ghost, because that is going to inform his response to it. So Sarah, I think that's the route I would take with it. I think Horatio learns, however, that Hamlet is in a state based on his father's his response about the quickness of the marriage, the things that Hamlet says to him, thrift, Horatio, the funeral, and my father, methinks I see, he sees Hamlet in a light of someone who is troubled. But he does go on to describe very clearly what he saw when he encountered the ghost, and he agrees to meet with Hamlet. Does that make sense for you?
Yes.
Yes. In the first scene, Horatio, I think, actually says we've got to tell Hamlet because the ghost will talk to him. He's not telling us what he needs. I think the only person is Hamlet, and but yeah, I think you're right. Nobody can predict what's going to happen when you come against an object like this, and the fact that the ghost still won't talk to him, still won't talk to them, but will only talk to Hamlet alone. I don't think anybody expects that, and that's really, really scary.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's also going to open up that question, Michelle, of why. Why? We trust Horatio. Marcellus has proven to himself to be a good guy, but why? And we'll get into that when he actually encounters that the father, but the ghost. But all of that, yes, Horatio does realize that in the very first scene. I think that's a very important thing to put forth.
And then that helps determine how he hands off the ball, so to speak.
Yes.
This is part of the progression. You're digging it up. I'm just recognizing it as all. Yeah. No, this is good. This is the course it needs to take. And so it's not fear from Horatio. It's not like, no, I don't want to go. It's like, no, it must go in this direction.
And we'll direct it, right?
Yeah.
I also think, however, that I want to add another little thing about Horatio. The Horatio that we know, or have come to know, or Hamlet will let us know about, is somebody who can accept good and evil without being tremendously emotional about it. That, we get the feeling that Horatio is almost stoic in his view of things. However, this is the second time now where when he sees the ghost the first time, he says that he's filled with fear and wonder, that it does shake him up, seeing that little moment in that first scene. We see Horatio that's impacted by that. And here we have another little moment like that. He waxes desperate with imagination. Marcellus says, let's go. And Horatio is as firm in staying back as Marcellus is in having him go. So it's a kind of, I agree with you that it is more about let the heaven direct this, but it is coming from a response of something that must, fill him with fear, dread, wonder, whatever it is. It's all human. And I think that's sometimes where we can go off. It's all human. our response to things. I was saying to Randy, and I know some of you will disagree with me, if you dare. No, no. But if it's with we were talking about Gertrude, and we were talking about her acquiescing to Claudius, and I said to him, if you have been loved by a man who won't let the winds of heaven visit your face too roughly, how lonely are you when he dies? How in need are you of that kind of attention? And Randy said, well, you think so? I said, you've never taken the winds from visiting my face too roughly. I mean, every woman hopes for somebody to do that to her, for her. But we don't look at it as human frailty. But all of this is filled with human frailty. Well, Horatio and Hamlet can read all they want about ghosts, and Annie can read all she wants about ghosts. But the human response to it is what Shakespeare has put into the play.
Yeah.
And that's what we can't let go of. What's human about this moment? No one character is one thing only. So when we try to slot them into something, and then we're disappointed, when they move ahead and they're not that anymore, what do? We cut the play. Oh no, I got to fit this play around what I want. And it's so stupid. It's just stupid. I'm sorry, I'm old enough to say it. Because the play is a great play. You know, we have the privilege of embodying a masterpiece. What if you had the privilege of painting the Mona Lisa? Of you in your hands could bring the Mona Lisa to a canvas. Oh my God, we'd be in awe of the painter, or play some magnificent piece of music. That's our privilege. We're acting in a masterpiece, and don't be fooled by thinking that's boring or that's highfalutin or that's something intellectual. It's a masterpiece about humanity, about who we are, why we live, what we do, what's foolish about us, what's wonderful about us. We get to do that. I don't know why I'm feeling so. I'll shut up, Randy. I'm sorry, but I can't help it. The more I look at this play, the more I realize that it's a masterpiece, and I want to share that masterpiece with an audience. Every member of the audience, not the intellectual, not the school, not those who know Hamlet, every member of the audience. Remember that story I told you about that little Italian barber who barely spoke English? And he went to see the play and he loved it. He loved it. He couldn't, he was thrilled, filled with fear, never saw anything like it and could only barely understand English. That's the impact this play has on people. At any rate, let's read it again so I shut up. Let's do it. Okay, so now I'm ready to move on to, I get my list. Let's see. Randy, would you do Hamlet? Oh, Nick, would you do Hamlet? Randy, would you do Horatio? And
Sure.
Michelle, would you do Marcellus?
The air bites shrewdly. Is it very cold?
Oh, it's a nipping and an eager air.
What hour now?
I think it lacks of 12.
No, it is struck.
Indeed, I heard it not. And it draws near the season wherein the spirit held is wont to walk. What does this mean, my lord?
The king doth wake tonight, and take his rouse, keeps wassels and the swaggering upspring reels, and as he drains his draughts of Rhenish down, the kettle drum and trumpet thus bray out the triumph of his pledge.
Is it a custom?
Ay, merriest. And to my mind, though I am native here, and to the manner born, it is a custom more honored in the breach than the observance.
Look, my lord, it comes.
Angels and ministers of grace defend us. Be thou a spirit of health, or goblin damned. Bring with thee airs from heaven, or blasts from hell. Be thy intents wicked or charitable, thou comest in such a questionable shape that I will speak to thee. I'll call thee Hamlet, king, father, royal Dane. Oh, answer me. Let me not burst in ignorance, but tell why thy canonized bones, hearsed in death, have burst their cerements, why the sepulchre wherein we saw thee quietly inurned hath oped his ponderous and marble jaws to cast thee up again. What may this mean? That thou dead corse again in complete steel, revisits thus the glimpses of the moon, making night hideous, and we fools of nature so horridly to shake in our disposition, with thoughts beyond the reaches of our souls. Say, why is this? Wherefore? What should we do?
It beckons you to go away with it, as if it's some impartment it desire to you alone.
Look, with what courteous action it wafts you to a more removed ground. But do not go with it.
No, by no means.
It will not speak, then I will follow it.
Oh, do not, my lord.
Why? What should be the fear? I do not set my life at a pin's fee. And for my soul, what can it do to that? Being a thing immortal as itself, it waves me forth again. I'll follow it.
Oh, what if it tempt you toward the flood, my lord, or to the dreadful sonnet of the cliff that beetles o'er his base into the sea, and there assumes some other horrible form, which might deprive your sovereignty of reason, and draw you into madness? Think of it.
It wafts me still. Go on! I'll follow thee!
You shall not go, my lord.
Hold off your hand!
Be ruled, you shall not go.
My fate cries out and makes each petty artery in this body as hardy as the Nemean lion's nerve. Still am I called. Unhand me, gentlemen! By heaven, I'll make a ghost of him that lets me. I say away! Go on! I'll follow thee.
He waxes desperate with imagination.
Let's follow. 'Tis not fit thus to obey him.
Oh, have after. Oh, to what issue will this come?
Something is rotten in the state of Denmark.
Heaven will direct it.
Nay, let's follow him.
Good. Good. Better and better. I still think that we can create more tension in the beginning with the idea of the air bites shrewdly. Is it very cold? You know, I think you guys can take more time. I may work this a little bit if you don't mind. So Nick, actually allow yourself to before you speak, weigh out the idea of is it possible that the ghost, is that the ghost I'm sensing? You know?
Yeah.
Morris, by the way, used to say, do a little exercise. I find it very helpful where he would have you almost paraphrase what you're going to say and then do the line right after that, just so that the action of it is in the paraphrasing of it. But allow yourself to do that, Nick, with that first question. And then Randy, weigh out what the air is. You did do that, but now you're going to do it in reaction to Nick's. Okay.
All right.
And all the questions in this very first moment, ask them with the sense of the ghost being imminent. What hour now? I think it lacks of 12. No, it struck. You know what I mean? Come really weigh out the ghost, the ghost, the ghost. And then does anybody know sound effects? Because we should have this big boom happen for the canon. Okay. So let's do it. Can we do it one more time? Just that much?
Sure. The air bites shrewdly. Is it very cold?
It is a nipping and a eager air.
What hour now?
Okay, hold on. Nick, come in with it. What hour now? Right. Because it becomes about time rather than connect your first line with that question.
Okay.
I'm asking about the cold because I'm sensing that may mean something, and I'm asking about the time because that may mean something.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Once again.
The air bites shrewdly. Is it very cold?
It is a nipping and an eager air.
What hour now?
I think it lacks of 12.
No, it is struck.
Indeed, I heard it not. Then it draws near, the season wherein the spirit held is wont to walk.
Hold on. Thank you. And that's the setup right there. Then it draws near. Because when Horatio says that cannon goes off, that
Okay.
audience is ready to see a ghost, and this sound just fills the theater, right? Good, Nick, good. Interesting thing that happens. Your voice goes, it drops. It drops to a nicer place. It drops. As opposed to when you were doing it earlier, is it very cold? It stays soft.
Hmm.
But once you ask the question, allowed the imagination, and not how do I say it, but
Yeah.
allowed yourself
For
to,
what it is.
it settled, your voice settled to a place that could answer that. And that's what you're looking for all the time. That's true too with female roles. I abhor when women do all their roles up here like this because I want everybody to think I'm thin and young and lovely, and they're horrible. They're horrible. You wouldn't want to be around women like that. How the compliment Lear pays to Cordelia is her voice was low, soft and low. And how wonderful for a woman to talk that way. That's why we lose elections. I'm telling you, it's our voice. Nobody wants to hear them. At any rate, so whenever you can find that, Nick, that's very helpful. It was great, guys. But now what I want to do one more time, and I want, if that sound effect could come in again, react to it.
Okay. The air bites shrewdly. Is it very cold?
As it is a nipping and an eager air.
What hour now?
I think it lacks of 12.
No, it is struck.
Indeed, I heard it not. Then it draws near the season wherein the spirit held is wont to walk. What does this mean, my lord?
King doth wake tonight, and takes his rouse, keeps wassels and the swaggering upspring reels, and as he drains his draughts of Rhenish down, the kettle drum and trumpet thus spray out the triumph of his pledge.
Okay,
Is it a...
hold for a second. Get rid of the snide.
Okay.
That's modern. That's modern theater. Tell him what he's doing.
Okay.
Because then you'll have a line that says, yes, it's a custom, but it's better if it was breached rather than followed. But you've already signaled it's making it snide, so why do we need lines? Right?
Yeah.
Good.
What does this mean, my lord?
The king doth wake tonight, and takes his rouse, keeps wassels and the swaggering upspring reels, and as he drains his draughts of Rhenish down, the kettle drum and trumpet thus spray out the triumph of his pledge.
Good. Stop. More. The king doth take his rouse tonight, Here, Horatio.
Oh, okay,
Let
okay,
me
okay,
describe to you what's happening. Yeah.
okay.
What does this mean, my lord?
The king doth wake tonight, and takes his rouse, keeps wassels and the swaggering upspring reels, and as he drains his draughts of Rhenish down, the kettle drum and trumpet thus bray out the triumph of his pledge.
Well, is it a custom?
Aye, merry is't. And to my mind, though I am native here, and to the manner born, it is a custom more honored in the breach than the observance.
Hold on. And what I need you to do is to make that difference. That's the one that it's not make it snide, but make it with yes, it is. But according to me, it's better if it's not followed at all.
Okay.
It sits in him. It sits in him. You know, it's not, Hamlet is never snide unless it's intentional.
Mm.
He's our hero. He makes mistakes. He does things that one can question, but they're never petty. He's never petty. Other Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, let them be petty, or Osric, but not Hamlet.
What do you think Marcellus feels about this?
Are we asking Michelle or me?
Yeah, good question.
I say Michelle.
It's well, I have the privilege, as you noted, of having seen this before. I'm not in. I think it gets harder each time. I'm not, because I kind of know what to expect, and it's sort of like when you think you're going to feel pain, you feel it before you actually feel it. I think that by this point it's sort of like, oh, that fucking ghost again. And
I see.
Right. Let me ask this question to all of you before you continue, and that is the language of the swaggering upspring reel, and as he drinks his draughts of Rhenish down. That's a mouthful there. That's not you know, there's no way you, and oftentimes you're not doing it, Nick, but oftentimes I find actors will kind of chew it up to make it sound like, oh yeah, I talk this way all the time. Well, what if he doesn't? What if he's making a point with it, describing what it is, the swaggering upspring reels, these wild dances are taking place in response to this toasting that this king does. You know, and every time he drinks, and you see the drinks his draughts of Rhenish down.
I think that's a very good point, because in order, you know, there's some really wonderful dramaturgy going on here in the construction with the, I'm sorry if I was too overt with the boom of the cannon, but what I was trying to do the first time was to interrupt. Do you know what I mean? To come on that, on the offbeat. So it was a bit of a surprise, a shock, and the cannon would be near and make the audience jump, perhaps. And then when we, what you said about the language, it is very descriptive. You know, it does create kind of a different sense of things, a different place. It moves it to that. And then the ghost, you know, so it's indirection. And it, that word, indirect, by indirection, find direction out, you know, is in the play. It's that kind of thing. Draw their eye over here to accomplish your task. Sorry, my disembodied voice just interrupted.
No, I think I think that that's what we have to play with. I think we have to, I think you're right. I think it's a distraction for the audience as well, is that we heard that cannon, we jumped out of our seats, and now Hamlet says, no, it was nothing. And he describes something that is almost this, I get this vision of this court frolicking to the king's drinks.
Bruegel painting or something.
Yeah. You know, and then again, we're surprised because the ghost now comes.
It's a moment of relaxation that all of a sudden you think you're safe, and then, oh, now the ghost really comes.
Right.
And let me say also that look is a long spelling. It was long in the first scene also. So when he says, "Look, my lord," that draw that out. Because we all need, we have to see where we would place that ghost, but that "Look, my lord, it comes." One almost feels that Hamlet is, of course, not in the direction of it, that when he's talking about the king, that he's perhaps, we'd have to work it out, looking, towards the castle, or taking it away, because it's Marcellus, again, it's Marcellus who, is it Marcellus? I'm sorry, I don't have the script in front of me. Horatio, right. Horatio sees it. And again, it changes. And that's why I love, look where it, look, my lord, it comes. Because that's our chance to see you, Nick, react to the ghost. And now our eyes are glued to Hamlet and the ghost. All right? Good. Once again. And then we'll move.
The whole scene?
Yeah. Is that too much to ask?
No, not at all.
I think the thing that I do want to keep impressing is some of the stuff I said earlier, though, that when you talk about, when you're addressing that spirit, to keep the object, if I were playing it, I'd make the object my father more than the king. Because whatever it is, Nick, you have to go find your own, whatever it is that makes you willing to sacrifice your soul to get answers from this being. Just cut loose. Don't worry about, again, don't worry about judgment. Find it. Find it. That's what this is all about. Okay?
The air bites shrewdly. Is it very cold?
It is a nipping and an eager air.
What hour now?
I think it lacks of 12.
No, it is struck.
Oh, indeed, I heard it not. Then it draws near the season wherein the spirit held his wont to walk. What does this mean, my lord?
The king doth wake tonight, and takes his rouse, keeps wassels and the swaggering upspring reels, and as he drains his draughts of Rhenish down, the kettle drum and trumpet thus bray out the triumph of his pledge.
Is it a custom?
Aye, marry is't. And to my mind, though I am native here, and to the matter born, it is a custom more honored in the breach than the observance.
My lord, it comes.
Angels and ministers of grace defend us. Be thou a spirit of health, or goblin damned, bring with thee airs from heaven, or blasts from hell. Be thy intents wicked or charitable, thou comest in such a questionable shape that I will speak to thee. I'll call thee Hamlet, King, Father, Royal Dane. Oh, answer me. Let me not burst in ignorance, but tell why thy canonized bones, hearsed in death, have burst their cerements. Why the sepulchre wherein we saw thee quietly inurned hath oped his ponderous and marble jaws to cast thee up again. What may this mean? That thou, dead, course again in complete steel, revisits thus the glimpses of the moon, making night hideous, and we fools of nature so horridly to shake our disposition with thoughts beyond the reaches of our souls. Say, why is this? Wherefore? What should we do?
It beckons you to go away with it, as if it's some impartment it desire to you alone.
Look, with what courteous action it wafts you to a more removed ground. But do not go with it.
No, by no means.
It will not speak, then I will follow it.
No, do not, my lord.
Why? What should be the fear? I do not set my life at a pin's feet. And for my soul, what can it do to that? Being a thing immortal as itself, it waves me forth again. I'll follow it.
No, what if it tempt you toward the flood, my lord? Or to the dreadful sonnet of the cliff that beetles o'er his base into the sea, and there assumes some other horrible form, which might deprive your sovereignty of reason and draw you into madness? What think of it?
It wafts me still. Go on! I'll follow thee.
You shall not go, my lord.
Hold off your hand!
Be ruled, you shall not go.
My fate cries out, and makes each petty artery in this body as hardy as the Nemean lion's nerve. Still am I called. Unhand me, gentlemen! By heaven, I'll make a ghost of him that lets me. I say away. Go on. I'll follow thee.
God, he waxes desperate with imagination.
Let's follow. 'Tis not fit thus to obey him.
I have after. To what issue will this come?
Something is rotten in the state of Denmark.
Oh, heaven will direct it.
Nay, let's follow him.
Good. Good. Nice. Very nice. I think that one of the lessons to be learned for young actors, hopefully they'll tune into this at some point, is this is why you want your instrument to be fit. Because you want it to be able to do what you just did, and you did a wonderful job of it. But that it made me realize why it's so important to have everything ready for that, because this stuff does not operate like TV. It doesn't operate on some kind of petty level. You have, I want to share with you one little, this was my education with Randy when I was a young actress. And he said to me, I wanted to be in a play with him. And we were going to direct a play, Titus Andronicus, and I wanted to be in it. And he said, all right, if you can let out this sound, then I'll let you be in the play. And he took me to an empty space, put me in the middle of that space, and he let out a Randy Kim roar. And he said, no, you do it. And I let out an Anokya Grosso peep. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And I realized even then that I didn't have, my instrument was not capable. My heart was capable. Everything else was there, but not my instrument to support what needed to be supported. So that's the lesson that I just want to put out there, that's the reason that we need the instrument to be fit, because we're going to ask it to do things that modern theater does not ask you to do. Tragedies are large. Tragedies are not just sad stories. We use that word tragic with almost every event that happens in our lives. We don't experience tragedy every day. And so when we step into Shakespeare, you know, the story with Stella Adler, the actor who said, Hamlet's a guy like me. And she said, get out of my class and don't ever come back. He's not a guy like you. He owned Denmark. And that was the end of him. But, you know, but I understand them. Those are the lessons that you learn over the years, that this is these are big plays, and they don't sound big if the instrument can't support them. They sound fake, you know. So good job, you went for it, and I'm very, very proud of you going for it. And all of you, it starts to take on the atmosphere, and we're not even on our feet. You know, you start to think of, wow, if we could get this thing up, how exciting it would be. Yeah. Let me open it up. Everybody wants to come on. It's that 5:35 period. So come join us and see if you've had any other feedback. Terry, do you have anything that you want to say? Or Rebecca, you usually have questions. Or Ben, anybody? It's opened up. Hey, Gary.
Hey, Gary.
Everybody sits quietly, right? Did you see the change? Let's start there. Do you see just the change in the scene? I certainly did. I think that once we start with circumstances and we start to know more of what we're playing, you know, I think. By the way, do you know what a pin's fee is?
Don't need to look at
No.
Huh?
A trifling amount of
Money.
money.
Yeah, and do you
Yeah.
know why?
Oh,
Do you know why it's a pin's fee? Because pins didn't cost very much. So you
oh.
can buy a lot of pins, you know, with very little money.
Still don't.
Still don't, right. The only reason I'm bringing it up is that when even though if we paraphrase or we get to the idea of a line, sometimes just knowing it will create a life in you and give that life to it, so it just doesn't stay in a vague.
And there's a lot of it in Hamlet. Asa, Wart,
Yes.
I to Hercules, you know, that kind of
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why that swaggering upswim, and I spent hours trying to say, okay, what actually is that description? You know, and of course people cut it.
Country dance, right? I mean, that kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the visual of it, if you just stop to think of what's happening while these guys are getting ready to encounter a ghost of the, you know, the old king, and downstairs, Claudius drinking. He killed his brother. And he's down celebrating, drinking, you know? And people are dancing along with it. The wrong guy is king. They don't care. This is celebration time. The old king hasn't been mourned correctly, you know? So all of that that's there for a reason. There for a reason. Anything else, anybody?
I'm just wrapping my brain around the idea that it's cold when a ghost comes by, and I can't believe that that's never occurred to me before, but that's why it's cold, not the weather, but that it's a ghost.
Yeah.
Well, both are brought into play, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was reading something.
Yeah.
I was reading something today, you know, by the way, I was telling Jim, that Dr. Richard Flatter, who wrote Shakespeare's Producing Hand, and it's his take on the folio, he wrote a book called Hamlet's Father, where he analyzes the play. Some things I disagree with, some of the conclusions he comes to, but always he tries to connect all of it to the text. But what he says in the book, the premise of the book is the play is not about Hamlet. We got the wrong Hamlet if we think it's about Prince Hamlet. His point is it's about the ghost. If you don't have this ghost, there is no play. And I thought he's right. And in the end, the ghost wins. Ultimately, you know, Hamlet dies. Everybody
dies.
But in the end, Fortinbras will become king. Claudius will die. So the revenge that the ghost is seeking comes to fruition. Claudius will die. Go ahead, Terry.
I was just going to say the one thing I keep thinking about is that this is where that huge theme that to me is what the whole play is about is that ghost from heaven or hell, and what happens when we die, and you know that whole business of killing, and does that send you to hell? All of that gets introduced here, in this scene and in the next, of course, but right here when he says, you know, when Hamlet begins to address the spirit, he introduces all of that quandary about, you know, who is this guy and is he tempting me to hell or is he a messenger from heaven or what's going on?
Yes. And I think that the thing that I've learned over the years is that the play, England is going through a time of religious upheaval.
Yeah.
You know, so the idea of Catholicism, the idea of Protestantism, is quite present. You know, and so what he does so brilliantly is he gives us a ghost that says spoiler alert, that he's from purgatory. You know, well, that would be a Catholic ghost. That would not be a Protestant ghost.
Yeah.
And so all of this stuff about ghost mythology and the religious perspective on it, it will even impact, by the way, the idea of killing Claudius. You know, when everyone thinks Hamlet's hesitating, why the hell doesn't he just get out there and kill him? To understand that, first of all, you don't just kill a king. That's regicide. And Hamlet is not king. It doesn't matter that he was once prince or that he's the heir to Claudius's throne. If he killed Claudius, he would be considered a murderer. And once again, we're back to what happens to his soul. If his father is coming back, who we thought was this wonderful man, we'd never, you know, think that he would be in even purgatory. What crime has he done? What would killing put you? There's no purgatory for killing. You know, so that dilemma, the dilemma of one's conscience, that's going to come up. Remember, in this play, more than any other tragedy, the word conscience is used. That is dealt with a lot in this play. Now, that makes sense when you're looking at all of the religious parameters of the play. But I think, Terry, that to me is also what is so fascinating and part of Hamlet's hesitation. All of these, I think it was Jim who had said at one point, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but you said to me, maybe the ghost is evil because everything he does seems to point in that direction, you know? Both Randy and Sandy brought up two lines, Sandy Robbins, Randy Kim. Randy always says there are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in our philosophy, which is I think we have to hold on to that. Sandy brought up, give me a minute. Do you remember what it's at the very end of the play? And you said it brought us to, not the I keep having the rest of silence in my head, but
I
that's
think the ripeness is all.
Yes,
yes,
The
that's it.
readiness.
That's right.
Readiness, yeah.
Readiness is all. And I think those two are really very, very important because Hamlet is weighing all of this out and to come to a conclusion that this is out of our realm. In the end, there's no answer to it. It's again, I think it's a service that Shakespeare pays to his audience to say, here's a mirror, look in. What do you see? You know, it's a wonderful way of playwriting, and I think we neglect that. I make so much of it because I think we neglect the brilliance of this playwright by trying to solve him, by trying to say, this is it. When he's saying, what do you think it is, audience member? And then maybe they'll come back for more. What do you think it's lasted 400 years? You know? And I think that he's just, obviously he's a master at that, but we're robbing him. We're saying, I want you, audience, I want you to see the play the way I do. I'm the director, see it the way I do. And so I'll fix it and move it and do whatever I have to do so you see my opinion of the play. That's why I keep saying, then you're not doing Shakespeare's play, because he's not even saying his play. He's saying, let's share it. Let's see what you get from it. but you have to be open to that. That you have to. I think part of one of the things that Nick and Randy make fun of me when I say because I'm a Pisces. But I think the nice thing about being a Pisces is you do see both sides. So when you're working on Shakespeare, it comes in pretty handy, you know. But anybody else?
Yeah.
The fault is not in our stars, Annie.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, Liz.
But back to, is it a good ghost or a bad ghost? I think it's sort of brilliant that at the beginning, if you know anything about it, the idea that the ghost disappears when the word heaven is uttered, that the ghost disappears when the cock crows. So it's planting seeds of this being a dangerous ghost. And even in this scene, it's reinforced, and everybody's very worried. Don't go, you'll go, you'll become, he will lead you to madness and everything, until we actually hear what the ghost has to say.
Yeah.
And then, so I mean, I think it's very carefully set up. And then even then, after that, there can be some wobbling.
Yes.
It's not clear cut. I think.
There's definite ambiguity. I mean, the density
absolutely.
of what's packed into this and the playability is just, I really was struck by that this time. It just in the few lines that Marcellus has, look with what a courteous action would a bad ghost be so kind in inviting him.
And it depends if the bad ghost is the devil, because
Yeah.
the devil understands what will lure you in. That's
Right.
what makes it so maddening is
Yeah.
that.
And it wafts you to a more removed ground. And
Yes.
I'm the Secret Service agent. My job is to protect the Prince Hamlet. So removed ground. Oh, removed ground. Oh, no, do not go with him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think Jim and I were working on it this Sunday, looking at that ghost scene, and we'll be coming up on, I think next time we'll have to look at that, because I think we've done a pretty wonderful job with this so far. But even then, the human quality to that ghost, one questions his feelings towards Gertrude. If he's there, remember that a ghost comes back for a benevolent reason. A good ghost doesn't come back to ask for revenge. However, what makes this complex is Claudius did kill him, and Denmark is in danger. So it's you know, it's complex. It's not as easy as saying this is a good ghost or a bad ghost. The circumstances are what can trip you up. And again, it's why I think Hamlet has to solve what the spirit was. I think Hamlet's well aware of his reaction. We'll see it, you know, in the ghost scene, his reaction to that ghost, as his father, as his king, you know. But it's not a simple, it's just even at that moment, one has to wonder, am I feeling this way? A lot of people talk about how our feelings towards the ghost depend a lot on our feelings towards Hamlet. Because we love Hamlet, we tend to agree with whatever he feels about the ghost. But he can also be misled, as we find out, even the fear of Marcellus and Horatio. But I think the ghost is a fascinating study, Terry, what you brought up, and just the idea of how does one move forward? And of course, you place this play in the world of kings and princes. And so it's not as easy as a CEO whose business you're going to want to save because you're the son and you want to inherit that business. We're talking about a nation.
Kingdoms.
And look, guys, I won't get into it, but we're talking about a nation. And we're talking about leadership in a nation. It's not far from us. It's big. It's large. It's a country. A country is at stake. And this play can help by holding that mirror up to remind people. It's the other thing that I don't understand why people don't get. when you set Hamlet in its period, which is if you're doing it Viking, we're talking about 12th century, okay? We didn't have Republicans and Democrats. You can't write this off as some kind of a political ploy by left or right to get you to win the audience. This was written well before any of the things that we're faced with. But we're seeing those things in the play. And if you do it with the promise that you're doing the play and not adding or detracting from it, you have stronger legs to stand on. That's not me. That's what it was 400 years ago. And that's what it is today. So it's a very important tool that we hold in our hands. And I'll leave it at that. Anything else? Back to the play.
You know, Annie, I feel like I make the same point every time, which is that I keep falling in love with these lines that I never get to hear, and that I certainly didn't say when I played it. You know, and they're just becoming key lines to me now. And I'm looking at that one that has the funky punctuation we were talking about, but just the, you know, we fools of nature, you know, so horribly to shake our dispositions with thoughts beyond the reaches of our souls. Why is this? Wherefore? What should we do? Well, there's the theme of the play. I almost feel like that is the, you know, why are we being forced to think about things that we can't wrap our brains around? What are we supposed to do? You know, and I think I'd never really considered that line, you know, before, and I went, wow, that's
and you know, as you bring
good.
that up, and let's take a look at when the ghost wafts him. What shall we do? So he doesn't waft him when he first comes in. So it's not that he's been planning to be alone. Something's happened in what Hamlet has agreed to do in that speech that has allowed the ghost to take that moment to say,
Come with me.
Marcellus and Horatio's response to it, I think, don't go with him. What if he does this? What if he does that? Makes the ghost need to be alone with Hamlet even more, because they've already been skeptical of what that ghost could do to Hamlet. Hamlet's the one who says, I don't care. I'll do whatever you want, king, father. So I think that's another moment in it where we have to staging it to say, that's what happens at the end of that question that Hamlet poses. Yeah.
Annie, I also feel that they're already so fearful when they tell him not to go with the ghost. And then Hamlet's like, why? What should be the fear? I feel like then their fear grows even more. And seeing that, what do you mean? How can we not fear that? You know, it's like that unspoken reaction of now I'm even more fearful that you're even posing that question.
Yes. Absolutely, sir. That's why I say that when you watch these scenes, you see these scenes, everything progresses. If you play it as if the character, I forgot who, a couple of sessions ago, I think somebody had said that I think Horatio has a plan, and his plan is to come into Hamlet, and here's the plan. Your plans are going to be thrown out the window because Hamlet doesn't know the plan, or whoever is going to respond to you doesn't know, you know, so it progresses. I love the idea that Hamlet has no idea of how he's going to react to this spirit until he's confronted with it, because then it keeps it right in the moment. It's alive for all of us. So the audience watching it thinks, oh my God, he's giving into it. He's, you know, along with Horatio Marcellus saying, no, don't. But the actor playing Hamlet has to let us know that he is going down a dangerous path, whether we know ghost mythology or not. That's what I meant earlier when I said we have to find what any audience can get from that. And it is, Ben, going back to what you were saying, it is in the words. Words have life. They don't have meaning, or they have meaning, but they have life. And so the words we choose to speak, you know, suit the word to the action to the word. That's what brings it alive to anybody who's watching and never even heard of a ghost. You know, although we all, look at how we love ghost stories. When Hamlet says that you burst your cerements and, and you've lifted the heavy top of your coffin off, man, we've all seen it in modern movies, this idea, but they're always evil spirits. We never hear of a benevolent hero lifting the top of these, the place that we're lifting it up, saying, oh, I'm back. I mean, unless it's a comedy. So it comes with, it is terrifying. He is terrifying. And then, as Liz pointed out, we find out more about who he is and what he's going to ask Hamlet to do. I'm always taken with the line, "Taint not thy mind." Whew. Everything that he's just said, and I'm thinking, "Taint not thy mind," my God.
Nor contrive against your mother ought.
Yes, right.
That will come into play as well. Yeah.
Because Olivier just ruined it for everybody with his statement. It's about a guy who can't make up his mind. I mean, it's so wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a matter of you watch him having these doubts and thinking it's okay, but it's not. So he has to feign madness to get through it. And then he has to thank God the players arrive and give him a way out, a way of discovery. I mean, I don't think all the way along you're watching Hamlet wonder whether he has the right information.
Yes.
He's not making up his mind. He's trying to find out.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's the other thing, in this play, just a little side note, is the punctuation that is used more than any other punctuation is the question mark. More than any other play. This is a play that has the question mark, which I think is so wonderful, to be or not to be. It seems to be the thing that we all cling to. But that idea of question. Hamlet is looking for the right choice, the right solution, the right action. Even with Ophelia, we're going to see he questions her. Are you honest? Are you fair? Even with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, questioning. It's a very important quest that he's on.
And that terrible question, where's your father?
Mm-hmm.
Which trips her up.
She's to be buried in Christian burial.
Carrie, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say I was really struck this time through, and maybe it was something you said, Annie, about fathers, but he no matter what he thinks, the minute he sees his father, and we have to think he loves his father or he had great respect for his father, what an impact that would have to see your father return from the grave. Wouldn't you want to go talk to him? Wouldn't you want to believe in him? Wouldn't you want to go off somewhere and and have that moment with your father if you could see him again or have him in your life for just a moment? Wouldn't that be wonderful? I think that's a part of the scene as well.
Sure.
Yes, I think so. And I think that's why that moment, I understand why all these great actors felt they had to do something on that moment, because they understood the importance of it. I don't know what an epileptic fit would have looked like, but
Well, you got to remember, he left the theater forever shortly after that. So,
he became a shoemaker, didn't he?
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Go ahead, Nathan, you're on. Did I not use the time?
You used the time perfectly. I actually had a question, and I was wondering, did you already talk about the colon in the opening line of this scene, where the air bites shrewdly, it is very cold? Did you go over that?
I don't think we did that line. I think we talked about the colon and look where angels and ministers of grace.
Sure. Yeah, and I remember that discussion because I was just very curious because I've heard other actors talk about choices there and how shrewdly is kind of more of a 10-cent word, and then he follows it up with it is very cold, just very simple language, and I know we have in the very opening of the play. It's who's there, nay, there's a colon in the response to the second line where there's an action, and I know generally that's kind of what you were saying can happen with colons. There's something spurring things on. So I was curious, and I know there's discussion about is it a question or not, for the folio. But I was curious your thoughts on that. What might be happening within Hamlet's line there?
Here's the thing, that colon, because that colon can mean a jump to the next line, but it also can mean a physical movement.
Mm-hmm.
So however you stage, you can, I mean, what I would take a look at first would be for Hamlet to be by himself with the first line, the air bites shrewdly. Is it very cold? And then I use it to go to the person to whom I'm speaking, would be my
Okay.
first choice. And then you look to see what else might be there. But I think there's a moment, what you want to find is there's a moment of movement somehow, physically, or he
Yeah.
jumps, it makes his mind jump to the next
Right.
thought.
Do you define movement, and this is just a very simple question, as um, you know, pulling up his jacket or whatever he's wearing, his cloak, is making, is that sufficient of a movement in your kind of mind of something in
Only
there?
if I had a line that would be married to that action.
I see. Got it.
I think that with that colon, I think the movement, what that would do is just reinforce the cold. But the
Sure. Why
line
are
that
we saying it? Right.
follows is
Yeah.
it very cold. But I would try it, Nathan. Again,
Yeah.
that's all you really can do is you try it. But I'm finding when the punctuation is there, there's something important. There's a reason for it to be there. It's usually not just a adjust your coat or your hat or your
Right.
whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're saying, there's something additional
Yeah.
besides the text that there, is we're looking for.
Annie,
think
on that first line, I was just looking in the Norton and other editions. It's isn't a question, and it's so much more wonderful that it's a question
Mhm.
rather than it is very cold.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we hadn't actually mentioned that, I don't think. And
Yeah.
I love the fact that it's a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Lee, you brought
Yeah,
that up.
mentioned that in the
Well,
quarter it was, yeah.
Where was I? I was having a senior moment when we did it then, perhaps.
no, well, there's so
No,
much.
yeah, I just address that for a second, and just relating it to, has anyone ever like inadvertently or otherwise tapped into those ghost hunter shows on Discovery Channel, and they have meters and they're checking the temperature, and it's like, what? Oh, it just got really cold. They do that. And what if Hamlet had a moment like that where he's just fine, and
Oh my God, a chill.
Is it very
is it very cold? Is it cold out here, or is it?
Horatio and Marcellus are the cold meter. He's looking to us
You know what I
for
mean? I think that
comfort and for reassurance and for confirmation.
distinction,
That's playable.
Yep.
is it cold because of? Yeah, I think
Right.
touched on it before, sort of. You're right. Yes, but I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's much more active.
Playing.
You're
Yeah.
going to find that Jim and I, when we were working on the ghosts, also, you're going to find a lot of question marks that the ghosts will have that make you feel like, why would he even make that a question? And I'll show you what we came up with, because the other theory is, and this Dr. Flatter brings this up, that the question mark is is a mistaken punctuation for an exclamation. So a lot of text you'll find will change those question marks to exclamations. For me, the exclamation mark is a very precious exclamation. I mean, Romeo uses it when he goes into the tomb to see Juliet. That's what he exclaims. So to exclaim on everything that has a question mark in Hamlet, I think, I don't know that I'm comfortable with that. When we did it, and Randy, when, I don't know if you even remember, but the What a Piece of Work is Man.
Yes. Precisely. I was just thinking that there's all those are question. What a piece of work is man? Question mark. How noble in reason? Question mark. All question marks, not exclamation marks.
Right.
Because he's asking, is that how we think of ourselves? Is that how we look at ourselves, as like godlike angels? And his conclusion is no, we're not that.
Yeah. So I want to say that next week we will take on the ghost. And I want a lot of, I promise that I will talk. I'll never take that away. But I do want more of you to get an opportunity to do that ghost, because as you know, Hamlet in that confrontation, that scene with the ghost before he exits has very little to say. It's the ghost speech that really is packed. And so what I'd like to do is to make sure we have maybe 4 or 5 ghosts going, to hear the different take on it, because there will be differences, I can guarantee you. The little clue, though, as you're working on it, that I want to give to you is, remember what I had said before about the ghost's voice. And when we were working on it, I noticed that a lot of it is lowercase. A lot of it is no major capitals or long spellings. So there's something about an even-temperedness about how he's talking to Hamlet that I think you'll find in some of it. Remember that if for the folio to work, you need to allow those words that are regular spellings to be regular. And you have to be careful of putting in commas where there are none. Otherwise, it's just not the folio. You're just doing anything you want to do, which is, I mean, I get it. But if you're really trying to explore the folio, to really allow the normal spelling to be as important as the caps and the long spellings, because that's telling you something about the character as well. Okay? Anything else, anybody? Exciting.
Well,
Thank
this is
you.
great. Yeah,
Thank you.
another wonderful session. Learned so much about the scene. It's just crazy. It's great. I love this. And thank you all so much for your questions and ideas and suggestions. We if even if it were just Annie, Randy, and I in a room, we would not uncover as much without all of you. It's so amazing. So thank you all for being here. And yeah,
Sorry, one more thing.
go ahead.
Those people who haven't read and want to read, to let us know, because now we're moving into the next section and I would like them to participate should they want to. Okay?
Okay. So yeah,
Let
there you
us
go.
know.
Let us know. But that's it. We will see you guys all next week. Thank you again. Have a great week. We'll talk soon.
Great seeing everybody.
Ciao.
Thank